That doesn't look right.
Yeah.
But they were talking about going down back.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, wait. There we go. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And I would ask for a motion to move into executive session for the purposes of discussing contract negotiations. Heather, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Sharon?
She said yes.
Okay. We're moving into executive session. We will return at 6:30 for our budget work session.
My paper next, please.
Couple extra. Okay.
Okay, and welcome back. We are moving on to item number 3 on our agenda. That is our business administrator, Mr. Wolski, is going to give us our hearing on the 2022-2023 budget.
Thank you very much. Well, this one's loud too. So, at this point in time, we've done 2 budget presentations at prior board meetings on February 9th and April 6th. Those are on our website. We have the video narration, I guess you'd call it, for the April 6th presentation that's available for people to view. This we're doing today is called the budget hearing. It's required to be done within 7 to 14 days of the budget vote. So we're doing that as New York State requires us to. We've done other things New York State requires us to. We have administrator salary disclosure statements we've sent into New York State. We've done a property tax report card we've sent into New York State. We've done a budget notice that appears in our home newsletter that you can look at that New York State requires us to do. So here we are to do the budget hearing, which is a slightly shorter version of our budget presentation we've done at previous meetings. We've also go kind of above and beyond what New York State requires us. We've been out to PTO meetings. Doug's been to every PTO meeting in all the schools. We have one more left tomorrow at Elma to kind of talk with them, explain what the propositions are, because it's kind of a unique year with 4 propositions, and make sure everybody understands them and knows what they're voting on next week. Go forward, go this way. It's on. Oh, yeah, no?
Thank you.
Okay. So we look at our vision and mission statements. They've been revised this year, so they are new. So we've gone over those a few times. Our considerations in the budget process. Number 4, making sure we're future focused, planning, committed to constant improvement, but future focused, looking not at just next year, but looking at the next 5 years. What could happen with state aid? What could happen with tax cap? all our expenses, the different things in the economy. There's so much to look at now and consider in the future. So we do monitor those things all the time. So tax levy limit calculation, we're at 2.51%. That's a calculation that's done. There's a consideration of CPI, but only CPI that's below 2%. The formula is adjusted down if CPI is less than 2%, but there's no real adjustment above, like this year when CPI is 4.7%. We're kind of limited in that growth, but this year we are 2.51%. In our history, just going back, and we're averaging in the 2 to 2.5 over the last 10 years. So we're right in that range where we've been, pretty consistent there. We just estimate our tax impact on the 6 different townships. This is just going by last year's valuations. Things are going to change. There's going to be new equalization rates and different property values. So I'm sure it's going to be really crazy when they come out with the equalization rates. But right now, it's just we estimate 2.51% increase on the individual tax bills. But of course, that won't be everyone's individual experience. And here's what we've seen and experienced when we look how fast these property values are growing, that our levy is spread among more property tax dollars, and that results in the equalized tax rate being flat and actually going down the last couple of years. State aid, we've talked about this quite a bit, obviously. We are given the state minimum increase for foundation aid, which is 3%. And we look at our expenses, expense-based aids and things that we're going to get next year, we're estimating about a 1.2% real increase in our state aid for next year. And that's shown there. Sales tax, with CPI going up, all these prices going up, we do see an increase in sales tax. That's a percentage of the dollars that are spent. So we've seen some good, increase this year based in that sales tax, and we're going to estimate next year about $150,000 more than we had budgeted for this year. So that's a good revenue source. I don't know how long, short-term, long-term it is, but right now it's in our favor. So we look at our revenues, just summarizing everything we just talked about, the 2.19% increase in our revenues for next year. Look at the expense side. This budget does support all our current instructional programs, extracurricular programs, support services, music programs, extracurricular funding, school resource officer. Keeping the class sizes pretty much what we have this year, and maintaining that one-to-one device replacement schedule, making sure students have current devices and not keeping things too long. Capital outlay project for next year is more work at the 5-6 cafeteria. This summer, we're going to redo the firewall in there with our previous year capital outlay project. Next summer is this project where we're going to look at the cafeteria floor and ceiling and update those, redo that drop ceiling, and make it look a lot nicer, obviously. Retirement expenses, not a big change this year, pretty consistent. One's going up slightly, TRS, ERS is going down slightly, so they kind of balance out. No significant news in retirement system expenses. So when you look at the total expenses, they do balance out, 2.19% increase in their spending schedule, which matches the revenue side on that slide.
I think if you go back to that slide though on the blue, right there, what's in the blue, that's probably the most important thing of saying how this is really more than just numbers. It's about student experience, what is happening, how they be prepared for the future, because they're the ones that go out and literally keep the economy in the world moving forward. And that's where we want the children prepared here. And we're really watching that fiscally for the taxpayers, but still providing the services so they can be competitive in the world market. And that's really what I keep an eye on. It's what are the students having, and it's more just than sitting in class. It's the opportunities they have outside of the classroom that really make a good, well-rounded individual leaving Iroquois that we're all proud of. So I always want to keep that in mind.
So next week, May 17th, Tuesday, we'll have 4 propositions. The first one is the one we always see, the budget, general budget approval. The second is vehicle replacement schedule. We see that every year. We try to replace 3 or 4 vehicles a year, and with that schedule, we can replace everything every 10 to 12 years and keep current and not have things breaking down and costing more money to operate. Proposition 3 is the one that's kind of unique this year. We have the opportunity to purchase property across the street, expand our presence, I guess, across the street. We have some current property that's noted with the blue line, and we want to buy some property that's adjacent to that property. It's the Elma Fire Substation. It's a purchase price of $470,000. They gave that price, I think we approved that 6 months ago. The price only looks better every day, it seems, because materials have gone up so much for buildings. Property values have gone up so much, so we think that's a great number to be at. It's built in 2008, 6 acres of land, and we're going to use district fund balance at the end of the year to pay for that without doing borrowing or additional tax impact.
And that comes with 6 acres too. That land has 6 acres.
So there, just explains what no additional tax impact means. This is going to support, I don't know if Doug, you kind of dug on this part a lot, if you want to.
Well, yeah, really with this, if you look at it back in 2019, we looked at, we did a building condition survey and looked at future needs of the district. And so what is going to happen by having this, it immediately offsets needs, you know, saving money we have to save and spend in the future, about 1.4 million, because it'd be about 1.8. The cost of this is around 4. That's why I'll say it reduces expenditures in the near future, and by near future, within 5 to 10 years of what is in the capital condition survey. And so that's very important to know, because it's not something we're planning on 30 years from now. It's more immediate needs we're addressing right away through this venture. And really what it does is it increases some instructional space, because we can move back office operations out of the high school and right in where we have the technology wing for science, technology, engineering, math, even in the art wing. It creates a space that you could have there immediately. To build a room, it's $500,000 to $600,000. Come on in, we're just finishing the hearing. Sorry, some people showed up here for people watching at home. And so therefore, it creates immediate savings there, because it's a room you won't have to build. And that alone is $500,000 to $600,000, because you can move it over there, creating this instructional space. Because remember, the key to everything is instruction for students. That's what we're really looking for. The next one up there is centralization of buildings and grounds. This increases efficiency. As part of that efficiency, it also allows us, we have hundreds of thousands of dollars in equipment here that we use to maintain the facilities. It provides a location for where they're indoor, they can be maintained, take care of better. So it's better care and maintenance of the equipment with this building. The temporary structures in the 1960s, so if you come and look in the back, these 4 or 5 year old, these buildings are supposed to last 4 or 5 years. We've kept them going since the 60s, but you can see the rot along the bottom of them. So that's another place that would have to be rebuilt. This takes care of that too. So now you have the instructional space and you have the maintenance space taking care of 2 needs there, which is why we mentioned that savings before on the other slide. The increased maintenance and care of equipment I mentioned. The last one is it mentions evacuation. Really, that's something, I wouldn't say that's a cost savings. It's something that's nice to note to people, because it does help with this. But hopefully, we've never needed one before. Hopefully, we'll never need one, but it does provide for that. So that's minimal. Really, then you get into the long-term benefits, because you want to look at short-term, but is this going to last and help down the road when you're looking at long-range plans? And yes, because it provides opportunities for future capital space for where the district could move for other initiatives it has. It's already opened up areas for that, like with the buildings from the 60s that really need to be removed. Space for transportation requirements. You hear a lot of different talk of what could be possibly happening with transportation. Because of the size of this, it actually opens that up, and there's actually some conversations about it, because you hear the state talking about zero emission buses. this could help because we'd have a facility that could build around that and the infrastructure that would go. And it also provides for future instructional opportunities because now you have space, you have contiguous land that you could look forward to in the future of what to do.
And then Proposition 4 is for at-large voting for members of the Board of Education. This would not start this year when we're voting. This would start next May when we're voting for the board members for the 23-24 school year. Currently, this is how we do things with our current process. Candidates petition a specific board member seat. They don't just petition for a board. They have to pick a seat, a person that they want to run against or replace. And then once they're dedicated to that seat, that's the one that they would run for. And there are situations that can happen where you could have nobody running for one seat, and you could have 4 people running for the other seat, and you have a problem there, obviously. Or you could have situations where you have 1 for one seat and 3 for the other, and all those kind of things. And also, it creates additional issues where people want to know who's coming back, who's not coming back. They might want to choose the seat of the person who's leaving and not running again. So going to at-large voting is what we're proposing. Vacancies on the board will not be considered separate offices. Nominating petitions will not be specific to any board seat. You will just run for a board seat, and if there's 2 seats open, the top 2 vote getters get the 2 seats. So we think it simplifies things quite a bit, and that's Proposition number 4.
And we did a survey of other districts, and a majority of other districts would follow the same one we're looking to move to.
And we do have 1 seat open, the seat currently held by Mrs. Michelle Hovey. And there are 2 candidates on the ballot, James Mihalik, Michaelek, sorry, and Thomas Grier. So here you can see we've checked off the presentations that we've done. All we have left to do is come back next week, May 17th, 7:30 to 9 p.m. in the intermediate gym. There's 2 gyms in the middle school, so we call it the intermediate gym, the one that's closer to the district office. And we still are open to questions. If people have questions, they can always call me, call Mr. Schofield, and we are available to answer those questions.
John, just because we have an extra 10 minutes.
Is this a long question?
No, I think people are under the impression because of all the solar panels that are going in the town of Alma, thinking that there'll be some sort of tax benefit for the district. Could you explain why that wouldn't be the case?
There is no tax benefit. That we may receive some pilot payments in lieu of taxes, which they're given a break for a number of years where they can make a lump sum payment instead of paying school tax. But that's a pretty small amount, I think, in this case. We don't get much from those kind of projects typically. So I don't see it having almost no impact, I guess, on taxes for everyone else.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, and it gets it's really a tough question because let's say there's only 2 houses in the district and they're both worth $500,000. And the one individual takes their house and does a lot of improvements and make it worth $1 million. Since their house is worth more, some of the tax burden would shift on that more expensive house. So with the solar panels, with the new power lines going into Marilla, those property values are going to go up. So they should take on some of the tax burden from other people whose properties stay the same value. But now you really have to look at it. With a change of price of housing, did your house stay in the same value or did it also increase? And so for the school, it has really no impact, but it could have a little shifting of where taxes go for individuals within it without knowing the exact house, improvements to the house value changes. It's a really tough question to answer. And that's why typically when we look at the percentage we're going up this year and you look at previous years, I like to tell people how, unless the state does something with your equalization rate, your change should be about the same as last year.
So when a company does a project like that, a large scale project, a lot of times they go to the Economic Development Agency, I believe it's called in this area, and they can get a pilot, we call it, payment in lieu of taxes agreement. So they get their taxes, it's to incentivize them to build things and grow their businesses and make things bigger, better. They get a break on taxes for a number of years, like 10, 15 years. They cut a deal with the Economic Development Agency, And they say, okay, for doing this project, we'll let you pay less taxes. We'll define a small portion you pay the school to make up for paying a full tax bill. But that does run out someday, and then they go onto tax rolls like anyone else. And that's when you see an impact, because now their property's on tax rolls. Everyone else should pay a little bit less because now they're paying more. But that's down the road when those agreements expire.
Thank you.
And I think a company like Moog has had many of those agreements. So when they get to the end of one, they have to pay their school tax in full like everyone, the normal tax rates that everybody else does. And that, in theory, reduces everybody's taxes a little bit.
All right, thank you.
But we also
I have a question.
Yeah, sorry, Sharon. Go ahead.
You sure? Okay. My question is, throughout the year, we talked about the Google request from the teachers. And then at the March meeting, we left, I think that we were going back to try to see and put it into the budget. Does the budget in front of us now have that $10,000 in it for that, approximately 10,000 for that Google license?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
I wanted to go back to the question about the taxes, because we also plan for large fluctuations in our tax revenue with the tax
You're talking about tax challengers, tax certiorari?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So that is a reserve that we have established that if sometimes a company or homeowners can do this too, challenge your taxes and get a reduced bill. But sometimes a big company can challenge your taxes and they can go back years and say you owe them a big refund. We have a reserve set up that if that payback, that owed money is a large amount, we can access that reserve and pay that bill. So we do keep a reserve so there's no tax impact when there's a big claim like
And
that.
it's not really a refund to them, it's that they're saying they had been overtaxed.
Overpaid for years
They
sometimes.
had been
yeah.
overassessed,
Yeah.
and therefore their tax bill was too high.
Exactly.
And say they get a reassessment, and it goes back in time, and that's true, homeowners can do that
Yep.
too. You have to go to the town that you live in and talk to the clerk and argue that your house is worth less than they think it is. And the reason taxes in a town with additional infrastructure or services goes up, then the assessments would go up.
Yes.
It's not that the school is raising your taxes, it's that the value of your home has gone up, and therefore your part of the taxes that the town assesses is greater on your particular house.
Yep, I always like to just word it as, depending on the value of each area, the piece of the pie is distributed a little
Differently,
different.
yes.
And we've seen in past history, 5, 6, 7 years now, that larger increase on the 6 townships, usually somebody every year gets a larger increase than the others. But that tends to rotate around. And as other towns fix their assessments the next year, then they take on more and it kind of rotates. So even, I know a couple of years ago, Lancaster had a large increase. But they went the years, 2 or 3 years before that, they almost had no increase or a little less. So it came around and they had a big increase one year.
Right,
But it seems to even out and move around.
thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
4-minute break.
Okay. So that brings us to a 4-minute break. Let's really keep it to 4 minutes, folks, so we can get started right at 7 o'clock. Okay? Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Okay, that brings us to our board discussion and news worth sharing. So the first thing I'd like to share is a welcome to Karen Howard. She's the Community Affairs Assistant for Senator Patrick Gallivan, and she's here with us tonight, attending our board meeting, listening intently, probably to see what we think about what's going on.
This COVID thing is over with. I haven't been here in 2 years.
Me too, it's good to see you again.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
And then we have on our agenda listed the exit survey to have a little conversation about our exit survey that will be given out when our public comes to vote next week. And so kind of want to take a look at this and see what questions we like, what we could add, what we might not like to have on it. The first one is that I voted yes or no, so we can kind of get an idea what how people voted, and then asking why people voted the way that they did on the budget and to check all that apply. The budget meets our needs, our students' needs. I'm satisfied with the quality of the schools. I believe in investing in education. The projected tax increase is reasonable. I have children or grandchildren in the district. I was kind of thinking that maybe we might like to have a category called other, where somebody could write in something. What do you guys think?
And just Sharon, so you know, I just texted you a picture of what we're looking at. It was just developed right before this meeting by pulling questions off other exit surveys and putting it on here.
And then what were the best sources of information regarding the proposed budget? We have the budget, the district budget publication mailing. We have the district website, the district Facebook page, the Board of Education meetings, the public budget hearing, local newspapers, discussion with friends and neighbors, discussion with school district staff members. Any other way that somebody would hear about it?
I don't know. I
Maybe
know.
put select all that apply, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Select all that apply.
For that one. Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel about the district's decision to stay within its maximum allowable levy or tax cap? I agree with the decision. I disagree with this decision. I have no opinion. I was not aware of any limit or tax cap. I always kind of question the I disagree with it because that doesn't give us an indication if they disagree with it because they think we should have gone below it rather than met it, or if they think that we should have gone over it, because some people might think that. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe splitting that into two categories.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. In the future, would you support a budget that exceeds the maximum allowable levy or tax cap if it means fewer cuts to programs and services for students, yes or no? Then, in what town do you live? How many years have you been a district resident? Number of students that reside in the household? And then, this was a good suggestion. Please give us one suggestion that you would like to see implemented or improved within the Iroquois School District. I like that it's an open-ended question. It gives people the ability to be able to say pretty much whatever they think, and it gives us a good idea then of what people are thinking about. You know. I would like to see at least one question about our strategic plan. And I was kind of thinking that, you know, we keep focusing on communication, and something that we've kicked around in brainstorming sessions is developing an app for Iroquois. And I think that this would be a good spot for us to find out if people would actually want to have an app, if they would use it if we developed one. So I was thinking of asking to have a question added, if we develop the Iroquois app for official announcements, would you use it?
So that would be like a remind app.
It would be our own Iroquois app. It would be linked to our website. I think one of the things is if you're on your phone and you're trying to use the Iroquois website, it's really clunky. If we had an app that went with the website, you know, it would probably, I would hope would be a lot easier to use and navigate using a smartphone. But
I think that's a hard question to answer. If we develop an app, will you use it? Is like, what's going to be in it? Like, I don't know. I have no idea if I would use it.
It would depend how good it is and.
Yeah, why
Yeah.
would I use it? So maybe it would be important to ask, if there was an app, what would you like to see included?
ooh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, good. All right.
I know Alden has one and it's open on the CSD or the Play Store. And I,
Oh, cool.
anyone can download it just to get an idea on the types of things they use it for. But
Yeah.
I think any communication from the district that is maybe not associated to social networking, for those that are trying to deviate from using that type of platform for whatever reason, I think it'd be a good idea. But rephrasing the question, like Michelle said, it's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
I like it.
I have a comment on, the first question doesn't make a lot of sense to me, just because, no, after whether I voted yes or no, to ask why did you vote the way you did on the budget, those are all positives. So if I vote no, there's no answers there for me to circle. And I don't know that we need to tell people why. I think we might just leave that open-ended and let them tell us why.
Yeah, I agree.
And with the yes and no, like they could say yes to the first three propositions and no to the fourth. So what is that?
I can't hear Heather. I know that's Heather. I
Oh,
can
I'm
hear what
sorry.
she-
Sorry.
You're right.
Sharon, can you hear me better?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just didn't hear. Was it you that said something?
Yeah. So on the today I voted, I mean, yes or no, there's 4 propositions. So if they voted, yes to 3 and no to the other, I don't know. Maybe we just remove that question altogether, because if they did vote, I don't know, I think it's confusing. Maybe, did I vote yes or no to the budget or proposition 1? Maybe say what proposition we're talking about.
That's a good idea.
I just think you tend to get more, because this data is not quantitative data necessarily for us, but it really is qualitative. So we sit and look at those comments. You're gonna get better answers when you just leave it open-ended than circling with choices.
And also, I've heard very positive feedback from friends and family about the newsletter this year. So I don't know if we want to use an open-ended question on feedback on the newsletter or anything that they would want us to put in it to make things clearer, possibly as another question. Maybe.
My only other question was, why do we need to know how long people have lived in the district? We just curious. I mean, I just don't know that that's, if you're a registered voter, you're a registered voter.
Right. If you live in the district, you can vote.
Right. I don't know, it just seemed to me, I would be like, oh, I don't know, that question might throw me off if I were taking it.
And in previous years, do we get a lot of people filling these surveys out?
Yeah.
We do?
Yeah.
We have gotten really great feedback and great comments, and we sort them. We can look at previous.
Yeah,
Surveys,
we
right?
didn't do one last year,
Last 2 years
the
we haven't
last 2
done.
years with COVID, getting in the way of it, but, we'll do, once the, information is collected and analyzed, it then becomes part of our district, summer planning session. We'll actually look at the answers, the responses, and see what people are talking about.
A suggestion is that this really is an important way to get immediate feedback from the community. And we've always talked about, how do we get the community more involved? How do we get the community more involved? So maybe in the summer session, to take the results that you get and then develop next year's budget questionnaire in some form based on the feedback you've gotten. Just because honestly, I feel like this is so important for the board when we're developing the budget. That it would be nice to, I don't know, maybe
That's right, I
put more
agree
thought
with Michelle,
into it
because I've
than
missed
just
it the
yelling
last
out
couple of years,
questions.
because typically during budget time, we refer back to, this was added, this was changed, this was feedback we heard
Yeah.
in the surveys.
Could I offer a suggestion? It would be very easy to put this into a form survey so that it's electronically collected, but then also have some hard copies for those that don't feel comfortable going on the computer to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
if you would like, I would be more than happy to create it for you.
I a suggestion is that this really is an important way to get immediate feedback from the community. And we've always talked about, how do we get the community more involved? How do we get the community more involved? So maybe in the summer session, to take the results that you get and then develop next year's budget questionnaire in some form based on the feedback you've gotten. Just because Yeah. it's a
We
good
could have a
idea.
bank of computers ready during the board meeting.
So what I've heard so far, in putting this together, is for the first one, would reference Proposition 1. Today I voted on Proposition 1, yes or no. The second question, why did you vote the way you did on the budget, would be open-ended. There would be no choices.
Right.
Is that
I think
correct?
you want though each proposition, right? You wanted.
I can do all, that's what I'm saying, that's what I heard, so I can add more.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's-
all four?
And obviously budget, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
All four, okay. So that takes care of, so I should have paused there, sorry. So the first one would be how I voted today on Proposition 1, but now it'll be how I voted today on Proposition 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then why did you vote the way you did on the budget? And that'll be open-ended. The next one would stay the way it is with the choices, but then there'll be a question under that saying, what would you like to see added to the budget newsletter? That would be open-ended. The next one, how do you feel about the district's decision to stay within the max levy? The second one, we would split into two. I disagree with the decision.
That question, I mean, is anybody going to say, no, I want to pay more taxes? I mean,
That actually, yes, they did say that in the last time we did it 3 years ago, where some people said, I would like to add more programs and spend more. Were there a lot of people? No, but there were a few people that did say
but
that.
isn't that in the next question? If we have to cut something?
Yes,
would
and so
you
that's, I
support
mean, we
it?
can remove one or not.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
we
it
don't need them
seems
both if you
redundant.
don't want.
I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking as a voter, right? If I walk in and see this, how do I feel about the district's decisions? Good. I don't know. Like,
We can take them both off too, that's why it's here. Where we were 3 years ago doesn't mean necessarily we're in the same spot now with these questions. That's why we look at it every year. So for people that are new to the board this year, every year we'll be doing this. So throughout
Well,
the year, if there's
that's the
something you want to
question.
ask, remember to write it down and keep it.
but do we need different questions every year? Maybe it would be nice to see like how people respond and how that changes over the years.
Well, yes, that's a discussion we've had about keeping certain ones the same.
This doesn't look like.
I feel like that one about the tax levy,
This was the,
Like this, I'm sorry. I just, whatever.
this was the one that was given in, what was the year, 19, 1819, which was the last one.
I think if you want to know how people feel about the tax levy, again, you might be better to just say, how do you feel about the district's decision to stay in the tax levy? Because for example, I could disagree with it because I think we should spend more, or I could disagree because I don't think you should have like any rate. Like, I'm not explaining my thinking at all by just circling. So if they have a strong feeling, they're going to write it. And that'll open-ended, gives you the opportunity to say, I disagree, I think we should spend more for more programming, or I disagree, I think we should be lower, way lower.
Or how do you feel about the limit? Because it really ties our hands as a community.
Yeah.
Having to vote with a 60% majority is, I actually, it's not the majority, like it's a super majority.
Correct.
And it's like having to overcome the filibuster in order to pass your school budget. And that ties our hands.
And I think I say that more than once
And-
during budget presentations.
Right,
about the
so if we could
60%.
show that the community does not support tying the hands of your local, I mean, this is the one tax that you get to vote on directly, one tax. And if the community wants to add extra services, even if it's, $10 over that limit, we can't do it without a 60% vote, and that's not right. So if we could show people who represent us in higher levels.
So what would
Mrs.
you,
Howard.
what would the board feel would be if we take both of these off, what would be a good wording for that type of question?
I think we should ask about our piece of control of it. I see what you're saying, Michelle, but I think we need to look at our decision, and the tax cap isn't our decision. And because I'm sitting here going, yeah, okay, so if the whole committee disagrees with it, what are we gonna do about that? We would tell our representatives, but it almost gives the implication we can change it, and it leans towards that political partisan side that I don't think we want anything to do with on a survey. But asking people what they think about our decision to stay within it or go above it is, I think, the information that's helpful for next year, but that's just me.
So if you would just take the part of that first question, how do you feel about the district's decision to stay within the tax cap, is what you're thinking?
I would just leave that open-ended and see what you get.
So leave it worded the same way, just don't have choices.
Okay. People agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that first one, how do you feel?
So I kind of would like to know that, as a person who
I don't
spends a lot
see
of
that
time
as partisan in
advocating.
any way. I mean, it's just, it is, that's the thing. And, you know, we talk a lot on this board about what happens in Albany. And, you know, being an advocate for the community, and if they're okay with it, then that's fine too. Then we say that we support it.
Well, then just make it two separate questions.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can word it so that the public understands that it is not something that we are in direct control of? However, how would I say it?
Do you feel the state is appropriate in imposing?
Would you support board members advocating in Albany for a change in current tax cap, I guess, legislation?
I sometimes wonder if people even remember that there's a limit. You know, do you know that the school budget is limited with a 50% vote versus a 60% vote or something along those lines? I don't even know if people know that because we've never gone over it.
I don't know.
They don't,
They
right?
don't know about the tax levy and that you guys actually have nothing to do with it, it's all Albany.
Right.
They think you control their taxes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they know there's something, but they don't understand it.
Right. So, I don't know, maybe some way to word it that is also educating.
What about, are you aware?
Yeah.
And then.
Are you aware
do
and would you support?
When would you support?
I wouldn't ask people if they're aware, because nobody's gonna mark, no, I'm not informed. I would just say, you know, New York State puts the, you know, in order to pass the tax cap, we must have a majority, a super majority. How do you feel about this policy or something? I mean, I would just tell them it and then ask about it. I wouldn't ask if they know, because
Yeah, the policy is, or the law
Yeah.
is this, you know, for 50%, you can raise your taxes a certain amount, you need a 60% vote to exceed that amount. How do you feel about that? Would you like that to be modified? Would you like that to be?
or would you like the, yeah, would you like the district to,
Would you like the district to advocate to modify it?
Yeah, changes in that, yeah, I like that. And then after that, put the one about how do you feel about the district's decision to stay under it.
Right. It does tie our hands, you know, like if,
Yeah.
depending on the funding, like we might want to, you know, keep sports.
Well, it's all good information to have.
Yeah.
So what I wrote is, New York State requires a 60% vote to exceed the tax cap, comma. Would you like the district to advocate to modify this requirement?
Now, as a voter, am I looking at a question to say modify it, how? What
Yeah,
do
I think
mean
you
by
need
modify
to
it?
explain what it is. What the
Well, that's why I
tax
would leave
is.
it open-ended under that, where they could say yes.
They don't know what it is.
Oh, well, I guess I'm saying, you mean modify it so that it's a 75% vote in order to be able to exceed it, or to lower it? I think we need to
But I think it needs to be more like, school budgets require a 50% vote for an increase within a tax cap, or a 60% yes vote to exceed a tax cap that is set by the state without our input. How do you feel about that? I don't know. I mean, just thinking it's like somebody who doesn't come to these meetings and just comes and votes yes or no on the budget, how it's set, all of that stuff. It's just super simple explanation.
So, just kind of taking what you're saying in the last one, the school budgets require a 50% vote to pass when they are within the tax cap, and a 60% to exceed the tax cap.
Should we say what
What's a
New York
tax
State
cap?
law requires school districts? Put something about
New York State sets a cap on the amount you can raise your school budget.
Yeah, we need to make it clear that it's New York State
Yeah.
doing it, not the school district.
Right, right.
Tell you what,
I mean, we don't have to,
what
Yeah,
we'll
the
do is
exact
we'll
wording,
take these
yeah.
ideas, we'll wordsmith it, and then I'll email it out, and then people can send me back the answers, and I'll wordsmith it and send out a final one.
that'd be a really good idea.
What's that?
Communication person to help us with something like this.
Okay. Any other suggestions?
The NISBA website has a very good one-pager that talks about the tax levy cap, so maybe we should educate our voters as well. Some sort of communication from our person. But yeah, so I'm educating myself right now on it. Because, but yeah, it might be a good idea to post something on our website to explain how it works as we're leading up to the vote or after the vote. Well, I'm excited to see the survey results. This is my first year on the board, and I am looking forward to seeing what
Fun.
comes out of this.
Fun.
Yeah, real good. It's good that we're getting back to it, considering, we haven't been able to do it in the last couple of years.
Can you send John that link?
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, was there going to be a question about the strategic plan? You had said that, Doug, I think. No, that was you? Yeah, sorry.
I said I'd like to see something that relates back to our strategic plan.
So what I have written down for what you said earlier is if Iroquois developed an app for your phone, what would you like to see on it? So I kind of took what you said and put them together.
Is that the strategic plan question you wanted?
Well, it goes towards communication, I think.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, just curious.
All right, so we'll work on getting that together, just to sample out to the board for some feedback, and then we'll have that for the vote.
Okay. Does anybody have an ambassador report they'd like to share?
I do need to go over to see Darcy soon, but I know that's later in the agenda, but I'm looking forward to going to Alma Primary for all their spring events. Trying to balance them with my own kids' events and my days off, so we'll have a further report next month. I enjoyed voting on the art show. That was we have a lot of great artists that are in our district, and that was nice to be part of.
I also attended the art show and made a selection for a student. I guess I can't really say right now who it was.
Actually, I think you might be able to, because I think they were awarding them at 6:30.
Oh, okay, well, good. well, they'll have ribbons. So to the public, there's going to be, when you go to vote, you'll see the art show, yes? And please, I encourage you to spend a little time, plan on not just coming into the building, rushing in and voting and leaving, but spend some time looking at our students' artwork. It is absolutely amazing. I cannot believe the talent that we have in our district. They're doing things that I can't even imagine doing when I was that age. So there's even one person who designed a dress and then made the dress. It's just absolutely beautiful. So please take the time when you are coming to vote, plan an extra, even if it's just 15 minutes to walk around and look at all the artwork. Our art department has worked really hard to put together a beautiful art show. I have also been keeping in the loop using social media with Wales Primary. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get out there to see too many things, but I know that they were doing an amazing job this past week honoring our staff and faculty for the Staff and Faculty Appreciation Week. And they are doing some really neat things. They had an event at the Aurora Theater where students were able to go and see a movie and enjoy some time together as a fundraiser. So they're doing some great things out in Wales, and I'm super proud of them and super proud to be their ambassador. And I promise I'll get out there sometime in June.
The other thing too, on the public website is the information about the absentee ballot. People can't make it in to vote. I think that's valid leading up to the day of the vote or
For the day of the vote, yeah.
up to the day of the vote. So that information's out there as well.
Anything else?
Yeah, so, I am going to the high school PTO meeting next Monday night, so if anybody wants to come, they're talking a lot about end-of-year activities, which is very exciting, and it's seemingly getting closer and closer back to what happened before 2020, so that's exciting. And I went to the legislative meeting at the Erie County Association of School Boards, and just some thoughts. They really need participation from school board members around Erie County. And it's really a great group of people. You learn a lot from other districts and other boards that are going through challenges that we maybe haven't seen yet, but we will. And so that was really eye-opening, and school board elections are becoming more and more funded by outside sources, and to be aware of that is really important. So ask the candidates who's funding them. It's it's a good question, and what the agenda is behind the funding. Just a suggestion, please vote on the 17th. And what else? That's it. The art teachers at Iroquois are amazing.
Okay.
I had something I wanted to bring up. It's not a liaison thing, but it is a board discussion thing. Is it okay to do that now?
Yes.
Or is there anybody else giving their?
Yep, we're all good.
Okay, all right, okay. One thing that I was thinking about, it's actually a good follow-up to what Michelle said, was that nationally, in our state and locally, school board elections are becoming more contentious than the years of people not running. And that's exciting that people want to become involved. But it's also important when people are making their voting choices that they're informed voters. And I know we have our things in the newsletter, and the newspapers do a good job. I know our candidates have been to PTO events, but there's still nothing that's really accessible in person in the evenings. And at least two that I know of local school districts are doing Meet the Candidates nights hosted by the League of Women Voters, who have for many, many years done a great job of giving candidate information on, all types of elections. I may be wrong, I haven't seen them involved in school board elections before, but I know that they are holding one I know is going on right now. I know those are live streamed. And they have very specific rules, very, good way of, giving everybody equal opportunity to answer the questions and for the community to come see it. And I know that they're recording it and live streaming it. So that, I think, obviously for this year, it's too late. But I really think that's something you may want to look into hosting or doing next year. And I wanted to see what everybody else thought about that because, next year we'll have 2 seats up for election. And, the more different ways that we can get our community informed about what the candidates' feelings are and things, the better for everybody.
I think that's a great idea, Sharon. I know we missed the opportunity when I, ran for the board, and I think I would have liked to have that opportunity.
Yep.
Because, the one-pagers that maybe brochures and things that you send out are short and sweet and to the point, but don't really go into much detail. So I think it's important to have that night. It's a really good suggestion.
And the East Aurora Advertiser and the Elma Review and the East Aurora Bee do a good job for Iroquois in getting that information out, but as long as the candidates, send in responses to questions. And, the other thing is having reliable sources for information. Social media, it can be very misleading, and like the Friends of Iroquois Facebook page is not associated with the Iroquois Central School District, and they represent themselves as a school, and it's very misleading. So it's something to just be aware of.
What about your PTO, hosting a Meet the Candidates night? Because they're the parents, they're already out in the public. I was on Hamburg School Board 100 years ago, but that's another story.
It's a good idea, and our candidates did go to the PTO meetings.
Not that they go to the meetings, but they host
Yes,
a Meet the Candidates night specific.
yeah, it's a really good idea.
Hamburgers.
It is. I know in the past that there have been many PTOs it's an overwhelming task for them. It's a difficult task, and I think when things get contentious, it might be nice to have an outside group, but if our PTOs wanted to do it, I'd be happy to watch the videos of some of the other ones and see if it seems like it's, or maybe we all want to check into that, and then we can talk to the PTOs and see if that's something.
I'd be interested, Sharon, if you send me the link.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll get them and I'll send
I
them
know
to everybody.
the League of Women Voters, this is something that they do, so that might even be
Right.
a good place to start. If we don't get a positive response, then you can switch to the
Even
PTO.
reaching out to the senior center or something, I'm sure they might be interested in getting involved, or at least having a facility that seems
Neutral.
Neutral.
Yeah.
Those people.
Okay, anything else? All right, moving on, that takes us to the superintendent report.
And one thing I want to say, I always know the board's very involved in the school because so much of what you say, it's like, oh, that took out of my report, that took out of my report. So thank you to the board members
All right.
for being, I mean it for being involved because that's what makes a good board. So thank you for everything that you guys do. Even though it's not Board Appreciation Month, I just wanted to thank you. COVID. So right now, as you can see in Erie County, that there is a spike going on for the number of COVID cases. 2 weeks ago, we were at 50. Last week, we were at 36 in the district. And it seems to really be spread out all over the place. It doesn't seem to be focused in any one building. Interesting tidbit. Was it yesterday, Mary Jo? I think was the first day that we had one case in every single building. That was a new case reported that day.
Yes.
So up until yesterday, we had never had a new case reported. And that's back when we had a lot more last year that were being reported. So with that, I don't want to make people paranoid, but I also want people to really think where you're going and what you're doing, because it's a lot more diverse of where it is, where you can be exposed. And we do have end of the year activities coming up. I would hate for a child to miss some end of the year activity because of having COVID. So please think, if you're not feeling well, stay home, get tested for COVID with that.
Quick question on that, and maybe Mary Jo, you might be the right person. Is there any thought, like Regents exams, bringing every ninth grader into one room and having them sit together to sit for an exam? Has there been any thought of, if levels of COVID are very high, that Regents exams may, I don't know, I mean, would
I smiled because that was actually brought up, that same question today at the cabinet meeting by an elementary principal
Yeah.
about, has the state said anything? Has they put anything out about Regents
it's
exams?
something
And
maybe they should think of.
They
I mean,
haven't yet.
clearly.
So I'm going to use
You know
our district BOCES representative who goes once a month to the state, meets with the state, and ask them, say, are they talking about this? Are they saying anything?
Yeah.
We do spread our kids out. If I remember right, in the high school, they're not all in the gymnasium. They're spread in different rooms, but still, what would you do, and what would you do for someone who's graduating this year and needs to take a Regents and has COVID?
Right.
So I think that your question is exactly the same question we had earlier today.
Yeah.
So that's on my sticky
good,
in
okay.
front of my desk to
Yeah.
try to get an answer from the state on that. Because they kind of control that. And then if someone does
Right.
have COVID and they need the Regents to test, who wants to sit in the room with the individual with
Yeah, I wasn't
COVID?
saying it's Mary Jo's call, although I wish it was. I wish it was, but
But-
I thought maybe you'd,
I wish I had an answer for you at this point, but we only
Yeah.
have questions too. So, great question. Erie County did send us 204 air purifiers. That was something the county commissioner said he was going to put together, send out to all the schools. So as always, we were reading through the manual when they came in, got to page four, and it was stated on page 4, number 16, keep out of reach of children. Have, but that's where you get letters and stuff. So right now, I reached out to the county's getting a letter from them saying that they are clarifying that they are safe for classrooms, and we're going to be distributing them in classrooms. I just want people aware of that. If they're saying, well, what's happening? That's where we are with that. I hope to get that any day now.
I have to tell you, those air purifiers are excellent and they're manufactured here.
They're
in Buffalo.
manufactured, yep.
So it's great to support a local business.
End of the year activities, moving on to that. That was something we already talked about. So high school graduation, proms, middle school ceremonies, elementary celebrations. They are currently still planned to happen in a more traditional venue. So with that, and we're still we still think they'd be safe, but be aware, be smart too of everything that's going on. But, really think of that before you come of what you're doing so we don't have to worry about anything with those. Capital project, everything is moving forward on time of everything that has started, and other ones that are planning to start is moving well. Science room, when the board leaves, if they look down the hall, they'll see actually where we had different abatements in the hallways that might even be removed now. And if you peek in the rooms, you'll see they're open and they're working on those. Field project with the good weather has really advanced and is moving along. And they are about halfway done with the solar panels being installed on Marilla Primary. Other work will be getting later, obviously, because we're waiting for the kids to get out of school, but we are moving forward with that. Any questions there? Curriculum updates, and for UPK, I'm going to switch over to Mary Jo.
So I wanted to give a brief update on our UPK program. We unfortunately did not have an outside organization that was able to meet our needs apply. So what that means is that we are bringing it back and we are posting for 2 UPK teachers so that we can run the program ourselves. So we'll have one classroom at Marilla and one classroom on campus. And currently we're working, Amy and I are working with John to ensure that the rooms have all the necessary materials and the curriculum. So we're really kind of excited that it will be truly our program. The number stays the same.
So did our requirements change and the outside group is no longer,
Our requirements stayed the same. The out of district, or not out of district, excuse me, the community-based organization that we had, rescind, is that the correct word?
Yeah.
Rescind their application.
and I know that there were some concerns about for working parents, the before and after. Yeah, the wraparound care, is that?
Unfortunately, we won't be able to provide the wraparound care, but the other community-based organizations will still, if parents are able to transport their children, they'll be able to take advantage of that.
Moving on to ITAC then, and 2 weeks ago, ITAC, Allie and Sarah came to the administrative cabinet meeting, and they do a survey. This survey was presented us, looks like it was completed May 3rd. It was actually done in 2021, and it's information that they'll be working out. I don't want to steal away from ITAC, but it was great for administrators to hear it because it talks about alcohol, e-cigarettes, marijuana, prescription drugs, and from the surveys of students, their perception of it, and where they are saying their uses are. So ITEC is a great partner that we've been working with for years, and alcohol, e-cigarette, marijuana, cigarettes all went down during that 2021 survey. One question they're exploring is this went down because people were changing their minds of using it, or did it go down because of COVID and people were not moving around, so the availability changed? So I thought that was a great question that they're going to be exploring from that meeting. Unfortunately, non-prescribed prescription use did slightly go up during this time period. And if you think, well, prescription drugs are something parents would have in the house, then they would be more available. Again, a COVID question, because it went up, but it wasn't a significant increase, but it was a change. And so what I'd like to remind everyone is that the Alma Town Hall, if you are done with a prescription, don't leave it sitting at your house. There is a drop-off for prescription drugs there that you can go and drop them off, and they're taken to dispose of properly, because you should not be putting them into our water system and flushing them down the toilet and things like that. So that is a great place to go and drop them off anytime that the town hall is open. And you just put them in the box and they're gone. Next thing I have is recognitions. So I do have a bunch of those. The first thing I want to say is the art show was happening today at 6:30. And thank you to all the administrators and board members that went there and made a selection for who they thought had great artists. I actually brought a guest with me to help in my judging. Dave Lowry, who was a past board member, because he was an art teacher. So I kind of cheated to make sure I was looking at the right strokes and how they did everything. But I was very impressed with it, and I ended up picking one of the ones I saw right away in the beginning. And I know it's a great time looking at the art and discussing it with everyone that was there. The next thing is the IFA Scholarship Committee. So IFA is the teachers union here at the school. In the past, the IFA Scholarship Committee was responsible for running summer camps in addition to awarding senior scholarships. Originally, our camps, or the IFA camps, were to provide some fun, educational, and enrichment opportunities for students hosted by Iroquois teachers. After much research and some years of trying to keep things running, they learned that the summer camps as they ran in the past were no longer viable. The parents who were looking for summer camp opportunities were looking for camps that provided full-time care. This was not the intent of the teacher union camps, and therefore enrollment drastically declined. With all of this in mind, the teachers union, or this committee, the IFA Scholarship Committee, has been brainstorming ideas to continue to let our students know that the teachers care about them and support them. So their mission is to recognize all Iroquois students at milestone moments of their education, including kindergarten orientation, middle school transition, high school transition, and graduation. And the committee will provide scholarships to deserving high school seniors with the senior scholarship. So they're going to be going through their fundraising and having things to recognize students during these times rather than what they had been doing because of the change. John Iacco, our band conductor. I was trying to think of the word conductor. I was going to say teacher, but I know that's not right. The conductor. He is inviting the alumni from the classes of 2020 and 2021 to come back to join for this year's Memorial Parade and Pops concert. They are all very excited at this possibility, so it's great to have them come back because of COVID. That really caused a change there, and I applaud him. It was his initiative for reaching out and thinking of, so I think that is something great, absolutely great to do to provide that opportunity.
Do we know when the Pops concert is?
The Pops concert is June 2nd, probably at 5 p.m. Thursday, June 2nd, that's what he has in his email.
Probably at 5?
Probably at 5. Tuesday, June 2nd, probably at 5. I would get there early though, because their seats are taken up, so you can sit where you like to sit.
Love that concert.
And it's outside.
Yes. The Business Academy hosted their first job and networking fair on Wednesday, April 20th. This event was developed with several goals in mind. To first create an opportunity for students to practice their in-person communication skills, especially with professionals from the community. Second, facilitate student contact with local employers to consider for internships, immediate part-time possibilities, and long-term career paths. And third, cultivate mutually beneficial partnerships with local business organizations. Following organizations had representatives: Moog, the Globe Restaurant of East Aurora, Sealing Devices, Absolute Care for Orchard Park, Kickstand Culture, and our very own SRO, Joe DePlato. They spoke with the students about multiple types of jobs in their companies, immediate and long-term needs, and general advice for students as they plan for life after school. We are eager to grow this in the coming years, so this was a kickoff just to see how it went. It really went well, and several organizations applauded our students afterwards, saying they were well prepared with thoughtful questions. Even one said it was the best school job fair they have been to because of our students and their conversations. Thank you to Jim Whalen and Bridget Bender for planning and the execution, and congratulations to our students and the growth of their years here to really go in. And I know in interviewing individuals, when I get to the point and I say, do you have any questions for me? I kind of hold my breath, hoping they'll have good questions, because that really shows an aspect of an individual, and the fact that our students are doing that, really applaud them and thank you for the teachers for helping them develop those skills. Our middle school librarian is reaching out with some good news, and the Diversity in Collections Grant through Western New York Literacy Resource Council, the WNYLCR, has, she applied for a grant there and was awarded the grant to bolster the library's offerings in the area of Native American Indigenous representation. So therefore, we have a grant for that, and there will be purchases for the library in that area. So congratulations to her for reaching out and doing that and securing the grant. Sorry, I had to read it. We got quite a few here. The Emily and Jill are social workers in the high school, and it's their pleasure to announce the first annual Miles for Mental Health Walkathon here at Iroquois. That'll be Friday, May 20th, and this event will be held at the high school gymnasium and will take place 4th through 7th period. So congratulations to them to being the first of an annual event. That's part of theirs. Switching over to the bus garage. This is almost something I expect because we do have great mechanics over there. Craig, Frank, Josh, and Tyler. And they perform over 732 monthly preventative maintenance inspections, countless driver write-ups. And now when you say driver write-ups, they're not writing up drivers. The drivers say, here's something on my bus, and they have to fix it. And all those last-minute unscheduled repairs alongside with New York State Department of Transportation, 119 DOT annual inspections. And they did pass it this year at 100%. and they do have a lot of 100%. It's like at 99.9 or 100%. So thank you to them for providing the safe start and safe end to every student's day. I really appreciate that. Switching from transportation to the board, we have a Rising Star, and this how a Rising Star is at the Erie County Association of School Boards. They have events, so the board members come to all these events, and then they also give up their time for other things. And so, Michelle, you are a Rising Star, so congratulations. And we have some Shining Stars, so Heather, Jane, and Chuck are all Shining Stars, so congratulations. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's a majority of our board, so congratulations to all that extra time and effort you put in. Don, he is a student at the Erie 1 BOCES, and he is going to be inducted into the National Technical Honor Society for them, so congratulations to him. Moving to athletics, we have a new program with girls flag football. They kicked off the event at the Highmark Stadium on Saturday, April 23rd, and it was a great time. I actually went there to witness it, and we had 2 athletes of the week for May 6th. Both of them, this one was Jessica and Maddie, who were both on flag football. So I'd just like to point out that new program and congratulations to their start.
I actually got to call the first home game they had it.
Oh, you called it?
Yeah,
That was,
it was excellent.
and I gotta admit, what I love, I'm very competitive, but I do love, and I think all sports should be about fun and sportsmanship. And you could really see the girls enjoying it, having a great time, and the camaraderie between all the different programs. So that was great to see. Congratulations, sticking with sports teams. These are student, let's see, the team scholar athlete. So it's another aspect I love of our sports and how well they do in school. So varsity boys baseball, these will all be GPAs. 93 I'll just say 94%. Girls softball, 96. The boys lacrosse, 98. Girls lacrosse, 95. Boys tennis, 95. Unified basketball, 93. The boys track and field, 94. And girls track and field, 97. So congratulations to all those teams. Moving into the arts, Sarah won 2 honorable mentions awards from Alfred University for the Scholastic Art and Writing category. And she was one of the people in the art show. There was a highly sought after for possible of winning some of those. I'm not going to say whether she won or not. So congratulations to her. Moving on to go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm just going to add one more thing that she won. She won the Congressional Art Award.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
That is great to
Yeah.
hear.
Mhm.
That's another great one.
The Congressman Jacobs sponsors a art show for districts all around his, what do you call it?
His district.
Yes, thank you. Too many districts. His district, and she won.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. That's great to hear. And for our high school drama club, they did the Wedding Singer this year, went to it, saw it. It was great. I know the board members saw it too. And the Kenny Awards are coming up, and they were selected for 8 different awards. So outstanding technical design, outstanding hair and makeup, outstanding costume design, outstanding choral performance, outstanding dance performance, showstopper award, outstanding performance in a supporting female role by Grace, and outstanding performance in a leading male role by Braden. So congratulations to all of them. And that's what I have for my report. I had to think of what I was doing.
It is wonderful to hear so many different recognitions in so many different aspects of our school district. It just goes to show that, no matter what a student is interested in, they can do something and find quality in it and be able to participate in something that excels. I love that about our district.
I do too.
Okay. Do we have any recognitions of guests? No. Okay. And that brings us to discussion on agenda items 12.01 through 24.07.
Sean is actually in the audience, and we are putting him forth to the board for becoming a new teacher in the high school, special education. Did I get that correct without looking at it? All right.
And
Oh, and Darcy, thank you. And Darcy, who is the Alma principal, is retiring on this agenda. So I'd like to wish her great success in her retirement and joy. And she has been with the district over a decade and has really done a great job out at Alma through all the different things that have come forth with the schools over those years. So congratulations, thank you to her, and she will be missed. But of course, I will try to tap into her as a resource as the future years go on. And I think she'll probably come in and help us out.
I'm looking forward to our June meeting when we get to celebrate all the people who are retiring. And in that meeting, we will be recognizing those who have retired during our COVID years as well. So it will be a fun celebration of all the people who have worked so hard for our district and have given so much. So hopefully people come to our June meeting to be able to help celebrate those people.
Yeah, I think there'll be quite a few people, and you know, not to break anyone heart because of the number of people coming, I won't have a superintendent's report, and there will not be a student report. I was waiting for someone to laugh. And there won't be a student report from the high school, just because we've sent out 50 invitations, I believe it is, 52 invitations.
Wow.
Now, some people won't be able to make it because they might have moved out of the area. So,
They might have gone someplace warm.
or cold, depending on their preference.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
Just thank you to the donations and specifically Mr. Urbanski, who is incredibly generous to the music and art departments.
Absolutely.
And thank you for sitting through our board meeting, and congratulations on your appointment.
All right. May I have a request to withdraw any specific agenda items? None? Okay. Is there a request to add specific agenda items? No. Then may I have a motion to approve the consensus agenda items 12.01 through 24.07?
So moved.
Second.
We've done discussion, so all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
And that's everybody, there's no opposed then, and the motion carries. That brings us to
Recognition of guests.
recognition of guests again. For non-agenda items, nope. Then, do we need an executive session?
I do not, or we do not.
Alrighty, then, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, so moved.
5 seconds, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? And motion carries, we are adjourned.